The only person's advice that should matter to you is the advice of your future self. And the reason you aren't where you want to be in life right now is because you aren't taking that person's advice. The internet is a super noisy place where everybody is throwing out their pieces of advice, including this video, fully self-aware of the irony here. But I'm hoping to give you a useful framework that has helped me a tremendous amount, and that is taking advice from my future self for my life. In fact, that is more or less the only person's advice that I take, and certainly place it at the highest place of priority in my life, and that's for a few specific reasons. The first of those reasons is complete context. I'm sure you've been in the place before where you're seeking advice from a friend or giving advice to a friend, and you have to spend most of the time at the very beginning providing all this additional context before you can even ask or give the advice, right? It's like, how did we get here? Here's all this background on the situation. Here's how my mindset is, and this one thing that affected me from a while ago. And then basically you're trying to backfill all of your life experience and perspective just so that you can then either give or receive the proper advice in the right moment. Whereas you are the person who will always have all of the context to your life, not only the external, but also the internal experience, the times that you felt down, the times that you felt super alive, the times that you felt super inspired. So it's extremely helpful and time-saving to be able to take advice from your future self because they will always have the most context. The second reason is aligned incentives. No one in your life, including your loved ones, girlfriend, wife, mom, dad, brother, sister, even those people that really, really love and care about you, will have all incentives completely aligned with yourself because they aren't you. You will always have your best interests at heart because you are you. So you want what's best for you, while other people may want what's best for them for you. And what I mean by that is they want the version of you that serves them well. Your parents, for instance, really love and care about you, but their priority is keeping you alive and safe and well. And that's likely not the version of you that's the most expansive and grows the most and does the most with their life. It's likely a very constrained version of you. There's nothing wrong with your parents or loved ones' incentive to care about your physical well-being or mental well-being, but growth is found on that edge, and so you're always going to be seeking that out personally. And if you're getting advice from, say, a friend, their incentives might be to have a version of you that sticks around, that provides value back to them. And maybe that's the highest version of yourself, but maybe it's not. If you're taking advice from a business coach or a mentor or a therapist, they might give you advice that's aligned with what's actually best for you. But you also have to understand that their incentives are to keep you as a client, to retain you, potentially sell you things in the future. Whereas if you're getting advice from literally yourself, there's no competing interests. It's all coming from within yourself for yourself. And then finally, and closely related to that second point, is that you are the one who deals with the consequences. Whether it's a friend, mentor, acquaintance, loved one, whatever, if they give you advice and you take it, whatever happens from that, whether it's success, failure, amazing opportunity, physical injury, whether it's positively or negatively valenced, you are the one that for the rest of your life will have to deal with the fallout from that decision. You know, your friend might really encourage you to go talk to some girl at a bar or go approach somebody or really step out in a business venture, but you're the one incurring the risk in that scenario. Will it work out in your benefit? Maybe, maybe not. But regardless, whether the girl rejects you, her boyfriend comes over and beats the shit out of you, or you go all in on a business and you become a millionaire, or you go all in on your business and you have to take a few years of financial burden to deal with the consequences, you're the one who rides that decision out for the rest of your life. Whereas other people can be around you and support you, you're the one who will always have to deal with the fallout. So I think for those three reasons, taking advice from your own future self is extremely beneficial and puts yourself, in my opinion, at the top of the priority list for who to listen to. And then I think the final frame that's helpful for the future self, as opposed to maybe taking advice from your current self or just assessing present state, what makes sense is that that version of you is optimizing for as little regret as possible. That person has lived the life and doesn't want to look back on decisions that they didn't make, risks that they didn't take, girls that they didn't ask out, dreams that they didn't chase. So given all the reasons I said before and the fact that you're going to be avoiding risk, this is extremely helpful. And at the beginning I said that the reason you're not where you are right now is because you're not taking your own advice. This is because of a psychological phenomenon known as the Solomon's paradox. King Solomon from the Bible was famously known for his wisdom and giving sage advice. People would travel long and far to hear from his advice. Kings, magistrates, other wealthy and successful people sought him out for his wisdom because God made him wise. But paradoxically, his personal life was completely in shambles. He had horrible relationships. He was stricken with vice. His kids hated him. It was complete chaos in his personal life. So the Solomon's paradox is similar and has been studied amongst people, which is we're really, really good at giving advice to other people because we're not subject to all of the internal dialogue and the limiting beliefs. We can just see someone's scenario as relatively clear as day and say, yeah, you should do this. And it's usually decent advice. But the problem is we're not good at following the same advice we give for ourselves. So this exercise of asking your future self for advice is in an attempt to give yourself an inbuilt mentor that is you, that has all the things we said before, which is context, aligned incentives, and they're dealing with the consequences and operating from a place where they don't want to regret the decisions. And you're externalizing that advice a little bit. So you're getting it from someone outside of yourself and creating a bit of a dialogue to not only give you clarity, but hopefully a little bit of motivation and impetus to really take the actions that you're probably not taking right now. A way that I do this personally is you can do it on pen and paper or in a Google Doc. But essentially, if you're struggling with a decision or you're unclear on what to do at the present state, or it feels like things are really noisy and chaotic, and maybe you have sought out advice from a mentor, maybe you have sought out advice from a friend, and you just really don't know how to parse out whether to go left, right, or somewhere in the middle, you can sit down with a piece of paper or on the computer and actually have a dialogue between you on one line, and the next line is the future version of yourself, whether it's the 85-year-old, 90-year-old version of yourself, and truly embodying that version of yourself, sitting down and looking back on a life well lived. That person is going to give you the best advice that you could ever seek. And the more that you start to do this, the less you start to care about other people's opinions. Because at some point along your life, and typically it's not until a lot later in life, do people come to the realization that what other people have to say about how you live your life and what you do with it does not matter at all. We spend so much of our lives thinking that other people are even thinking about us, so we're worried about the fear of judgment of others, and then we eventually get to the place where you stop caring what other people think, and then the transcendent level, and you see this in a lot of old people, is you realize that nobody's actually thinking about you at all. We can observe this in the way that old people live their life. They don't give a fuck about what they're wearing. They'll wear the comfortable shoes because they're comfortable. They wear the comfortable clothes that they like because they like them and they're comfortable. They'll eat the food that they want. They're not really putting on a performance for anybody else. And it's because they've lived enough life to realize that at the end of the day, it's them and them alone who is the ultimate authority on the way they live their life, and no one else is really paying that close attention. So I think embodying that old person energy for your actual self is super helpful, especially if you're the privilege of seeing this video. You're likely somewhere in your 20s or 30s, and you're trying to set out or carve out a unique and really special life path for yourself. So if you can bring that wisdom from your own future self, that older version of yourself, and start taking that person's advice, you'll make quantum leaps to become a version that when you do get to 85, 90, you'll look back on a life void of regret. You took the risks, you chased the dreams, and you were relatively unconcerned with people's judgment and the stuff that typically is holding us back. So my advice for this video is to take your own advice. Experiment with this exercise of taking your advice from your future self and see what comes of it and what sort of clarity comes through. Because I know it's helped me, and I have an intuition that it can help you as well. I hope this was helpful. Comment below what you thought, what else you want to hear me talk about. Otherwise, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you tomorrow.